It is 6:01. Close enough. Okay, ready on the left?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. The Colfax City Council meeting of July 24th, 2024 is now in session. Would you lead us in the pledge? You can just stand up there all night.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, would you take the roll?
Councilmember Hilberg.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Loman.
Here.
Councilmember McCauley. Here. Mayor Douglas.
Present. Item TD, approval of the agenda order. Do I hear?
Motion to
a motion?
approve.
Do I hear a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. Okay, what are we doing next? Oh, yeah. The attorney says it's time to ask my fellow councilman if there's a conflict of interest.
None.
None? No, no. Then for me, we're as clean as a driven snow. Let's see. Consent, what am I doing? Consent calendar.
Motion to approve.
I second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. Consent calendar passes. Okay.
Agency reports.
How did we get agency reports? You're earning your paycheck today. Pasco County Sheriff, any representative from Pasco County Sheriff? Get off that laptop.
Good evening. Sorry that Sergeant Griffiths couldn't be here. Good evening. Sorry that Sergeant Griffiths couldn't be here. He was tied up on that search and rescue for the last 5 days. Fortunately, we can report that he was located alive and he's doing well. Beyond that, I don't know of any issues to bring forth as far as the Placer County Sheriff's is aware or involved in at this time. If there's any questions, I can answer those for you. Otherwise, that is all I have to report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Look, it's 8th grade, we're passing notes around. Just got an update that one of our council members is ill. CHP, any representatives from CHP? No, they're all hiding behind billboards. CAL FIRE, any representative from CAL FIRE?
Well, good evening, everybody. Bob Counts, Assistant Chief with CAL FIRE, Placer County Fire Department. We've had a rash of fires over the last week to 10 days or so. I'll go through a few of them. Talk a little bit about some causes, but please know that some of them I can't really speak about if there's ongoing investigations, if that makes sense. So it kind of started with the Iowa incident on Iowa Hill Road on the other side of the canyon. Went for 5 acres. We threw a ton of resources at it. And it was pretty lengthy travel times because we had to send a lot of stuff in from the Forest Hill side. One of the great successes we had on that was our night flying helicopter that came out of Truckee that flew on that fire. So great success there. That one, the investigation is still ongoing. We had a fire right off of I-80 in Weimar. We actually had 2. I'll cover the second one here in a second. It was about 2 o'clock on Friday that it started pretty much right on I-80, just east of Weimar Crossroads. Was a 1/3 of an acre, got on it quick, put it out. It was likely vehicle caused based on its location, but unconfirmed. Just after that, Chief Siebert was on that fire, and then he got sent down to the Lehigh fire down in Newcastle. And that one went through some homes. Unfortunately, it caught one home on fire that was 25% involved. They put it out, but it had significant damage. So the Lehigh fire was 9 acres and it was caused by somebody mowing. So while Chief Siebert was on the Lehigh fire, a second fire started at I-80 in Weimar, right in the same vicinity of the first one. And I actually went to that one and was the incident commander for that because it's fairly close to my house. That one went for 4 acres. We did lose one outbuilding. It was a pump house. And the investigation is ongoing on that one. We're fairly certain it was not a rekindle from the first fire, but we're looking into the cause of why it started the second time. We had 2 fires on Narrow Gauge Road, just over here on the east end of town. Both were very small and the investigations are ongoing on those as well. And then lastly, we had one fire at I-80 in Rollins Lake Road. And we do know that was a blown tire on a trailer from towing that caused that fire. So that's kind of the incidents really close to home that we've had in the last week or so, and some of the things we've been doing. So, most fires are human caused, so it's up to everybody to do their part, not to be that factor. Do your mowing early in the morning. Make sure your tow chains, if you're towing, are tied up and secured properly. Don't grind on metal near any wildland areas, all those sort of things, discarded smoking materials. It's up to all of us to take that link out of the factors here and not be that human cause. So that's all I had, unless there's any questions.
I have a quick question for
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
I know, or I've seen a couple different calls coming out of people, barbecuing when they're out at the lake and whatnot. Are they getting fined or just educated? What is the current situation for those people?
For barbecues at the lake?
Well, when they're not supposed to be doing them, I mean, whether they're open fires or whatever they're doing out there. Because I've seen multiple calls come in.
Yeah, typically it starts with education and we'll go out and put it out there. Those areas are patrolled by the Rollins Lake and either Nevada or Placer County side, but yeah, it usually starts with education and
Because I know,
most people are compliant.
I think there was one at Yankee Jams and I seem to remember a couple of the Confluence in the last couple of
Yeah.
weeks. So I was just curious what avenue we were taking with.
And a lot of time it depends on the attitude of the personnel when you go out to deal with those incidents, whether they, it's an education based or if we can escalate it to citation.
Okay, thank you.
The 2 Weimar fires, how far apart were they in time?
So the first Weimar fire started, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief Siebert, around 2:00. They were on it. It was 1/3 of an acre, pretty small. They were on it for about 2.5 hours with a couple of engines and a water tender. And they were on it for a couple of hours before they left.
And they're close together?
Correct.
And the cause is unknown for both or just the one?
It's unknown for both. The first one is based on where it started and our narrowing of the point of origin. It's likely vehicle caused. We just couldn't definitively say it is. And then the second fire started a bit away from that, and that investigation's ongoing.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
Just a curiosity question, would Rollins Lake fall
Mhm.
if there were a major fire in the area? Would the helicopters be able to access for?
Yeah, as long as it's somewhat deep in a lot of areas still, they'll definitely be able to dip out of it. Or a lot of our helicopters now have internal fixed tanks, and they have just a snorkel that comes out of the bottom, and they just hover over the lake and they suck water through the snorkel. So they don't need a whole lot of water to be able to access that. So Rollins is absolutely still in play for us. I don't know how much lower it's going to get. We'd have to ask NID on that one, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you have a council member who's absent from the meeting but wants to participate remotely. We just found out that she's ill. That's a basis for just cause. She can do so if she wants to. So long as there's a two-way communication method. Do we have one that she can talk and the audience can talk to her if necessary. Okay, then you can,
I am now online as a panelist. Is everyone able to hear me?
I hear you fine. Okay, so
Okay, sounds like we're good to go.
doing the meeting.
Okay. Okay, next on the agenda, item 5, presentations. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I see we have some nonprofits in the audience. Chamber of Commerce, going in alphabetical order.
Hi, good afternoon, council and everybody out there. I just wanted to give you guys a quick update on Big Boy. Thank you so much to the sheriff and search and rescue that came out, as well as all of the council members. You see green line? No.
There it is. So thank you so much to Placer County Sheriff and all of the council members that came out. I saw you guys there. It was a really well-received event. We had over 5,000 people we're guesstimating. And despite the heat and Big Boy not showing up on time and then not stopping, it didn't really dampen spirits, and people were still really excited just to be there and to see it close. And Ron got some good pictures and footage, as well as Kat, one of our members, has drone footage that we'll be sharing on our website. So we heard a lot of good things from the food truck vendors that were there, and the vendors that were newer that came out that hadn't been to Colfax before. It was a really good event with the help of the city and everybody else. Is there any questions about Big Boy? Okay. We also have, so for the chamber, we have our second annual Oktoberfest coming up on September 28th, where we will be blocking off an area like we did last year, where we'll have German beer, German food, and hopefully some German music this year. That's going to be September 28th. So you guys can reach out to the chamber if you have any questions. We have our coffee and conversation on the first Thursday of the month, this coming Thursday. We have someone from CAL FIRE that's going to come out, and she's going to talk about defensible space and what you can be doing right now before we get ready to move into burn season. So that's the first Thursday of the month from 8 to 9. Coming up in August, we're going to be holding business classes on the third Monday from 10 to 11 at the chamber. We're going to be focusing on marketing, print and digital, creating and maintaining a business plan, and some other exciting stuff moving forward. So reach out with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am Amy with the Chamber and the Visitor Center, and Carolyn asked me to come in to mention Big Boy too. Carolyn, did you have any certain questions or?
No, I just wanted to hear how the visitor center did both for Saturday, which was the museum special day, and then on Big Boy. I just wanted to see how it worked for you guys.
Saturday was busier than the traditional Heritage Trail, so we did pretty well, and we've got more people than we expected. Sunday was amazing. We had a line for 5.5 hours. We had more people there on Sunday than we would have had July 3rd Winterfest and Railroad Days combined. It was amazing, and everybody there was so polite, even though they were waiting. And even though they were disappointed that the Big Boy didn't stop, they weren't upset because they were still so excited to see it. But we've never had that many people in our visitor center before, and it was amazing. So it was great. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for ordering all that extra stuff too. I know you got a lot of extra shirts and stuff made for it. So thank you so much for doing that.
That was the thing, because I started it like 8 weeks before, and I just started listening to the customers that would come in. But then I found out why we did so well is no other stop had Big Boy merchandise. We are the only place that had Big Boy merchandise.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so that's why. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor, comment before you move on. Councilmember Burris, you need to turn your video on. You can participate remotely, but we've got to see video and audio. And I think I heard her say that there's nobody 18 years or older with her. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. So I do have my husband in the house who will be coming in and out periodically, but not staying in the same room as me.
Okay.
All right, continuing with nonprofit.
That's five, I love it.
Sean.
Hi, I'm Irene. I'm the director of the museum, and of course, the weekend of the Big Boy was great for everybody. On Saturday, we sold 4 shirts and 1 book, which is a lot for one day. And we had almost 100 people that showed up for the Heritage Trail Museum tour, which is more than normal. Usually we have 50 or 60 on that day, so it was really good. Of course, some of the people were there because they thought it was the day the Big Boy was coming, so that was a little different, but it was great. And then Sunday, of course, was just unbelievable. We sold 25 shirts, 2 hats, 2 pocket watches, 12 books, a bunch of postcards, and a Southern Pacific calendar. So we did amazing well that day. Very pleased. So thank you for making that happen. And now Rick.
My name's Rick and I'm a volunteer for the museum. And I just brought in a couple of things that the museum's doing and what we did for the Big Boy event. So I believe we sold about 25 of these t-shirts, but the thing that's different is that we bought blank t-shirts because we always get stuck with sizes or designs that aren't popular. So instead we made them on demand and it went much better than we thought it would. Here's a basic one. I'll pass that around. It's got a little Colfax logo. It's not the Colfax logo, but it's kind of generic. And then this other project we're working on is Move Your Caboose. Carolyn certainly, and Ron are certainly aware of this one. And so we came up with a design for that. So the museum designed these t-shirts and then we were able to make them on demand. And they were so popular that for 2 days after, we were still making t-shirts and filling orders. So the way we get these are, we buy sheets of these. And these actually probably cost us $3 or less per application or transfer. And the shirts are about $4. So, the rest is profit. But again, we don't get stuck with t-shirts, sizes and designs that aren't popular. And we're also doing it on things like pins like this. That one's kind of a prototype. So it's real quick.
May I add, half of our profit on our shirts, our Move the Caboose shirts, we're donating to the Move the Caboose Fund.
Yeah, thanks. But we want to make the museum kind of a destination. Whereas people are aware of it, but it's like, oh, let's go up to Colfax and see the museum rather than kind of drift through if you happen to see it. And one of the other things we're doing is trying to make it more hands-on. These are some narratives. Kim's been doing these too, but these we're putting on the display cases and people can come in, rather than just read the signs.
Press the button to hear the next topic or to stop the current topic. A monument dedication to the Chinese railway workers at Cape Horn.
And then this narrative will go and play.
By Honorable U.S. Representative John.
They can stop them. They can play the next topic. We can put a number of topics on. But we plan to have those in around the museum. So basically, 3 things that Irene and I are trying to do is increase awareness of the museum. Show the value of the museum to the community. One thing about Big Boy is we had a lot of people come in that were local and had never come in. So that was exciting. And then just use it as a way to bring people in from outside the community, from outside the town, and increase local business. So anything else?
So if we have any locals that still want to buy these shirts, do they just need to come to the museum to be able to order those to get them made for them? Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Around the shirt.
That's my size. That is, we're looking at.
I'm just kidding.
And he's gonna say, yeah, they're $25. Eighteen, there you go. $18 shirt.
So- No, I'm just kidding. I wanted to ask about color though. Are other colors available? Okay.
We've been doing green.
The green is gray is most popular. That's a nice shade of green, but it's not bright, but green is just about any color. Black. If you want black, white.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you for all the, thank you for taking the museum into the 20th century. Any other representatives from nonprofit? Okay, we'll move on to item 5A, which is presentations, and there are no presentations, so we move to item 6. And we have 4 presentations. Kathy, would you give us the first one on the Riley's Auto Part construction and design?
Good evening. I'm Kathy Pease, City Planner, and I'm here tonight to present to you the O'Reilly Design Review Permit. So this is located at 781 Auburn Street. As you can see, it's an existing vacant parcel. O'Reilly is proposing a new 6,890 square foot auto parts store on a little less than a 1 acre site. Excuse me. Access would be via new driveway on Auburn Street, and there's also an existing driveway easement off of Whitcomb. This is showing the site plan. O'Reilly would be a freestanding building. There is parking on 2 sides, and as this shows, in the lower right-hand corner would be the access onto Auburn Street. And then in the back of the site, you can see that driveway that would connect to the existing hotel to the south. So the general plan is designated as commercial. It also has a zoning of retail commercial. Retail use is allowed in the commercial zoning district, and the proposed project would meet or exceed the setback requirements. The project is proposing corporate architecture. As you could see, it would be a 1-story building. There is brick that would be on the facade up to about 2/3 of the facade, and then there'd be stucco and stone material as well, as shown in this slide. On the going back just real quick, on the third kind of elevation, that is the corner of Auburn and Whitcomb. And I did want to point out there is going to be a retaining wall. That site does have some elevation differential, so a retaining wall is proposed. And this is a good representation of the colors and materials. As you see at the bottom of the facade will be stone, and then there'll be painted brick and stucco, and these are the colors. This shows that substantial landscaping is proposed, not just at the street, but around the building, as well as in the parking areas. The proposed project does meet the findings needed for design review. It will provide a beneficial use of the site. It will provide local retail opportunities. The project site design provides adequate vehicle access, parking, lighting, and next slide. The colors and materials are consistent with other development in the area, and adequate public services will be provided. This project qualifies for an exemption from the California Environmental Quality Act. The site is less than 5 acres in size, and it's in an infill area. The project will not generate significant traffic, and it is under the threshold for vehicle miles traveled, or VMT, for local serving retail. We did do a traffic study because of the new driveway that is proposed on Auburn. We wanted to make sure that site distances were adequate, and the results of that study showed that there would be no conflict with that driveway. I did want to point out 4 electric vehicle charging stations are also proposed that would be in the parking area. Next slide. So with this, staff is recommending approval of the project.
All right.
Thank you. Any questions from the public? We open the public hearing. Any questions from the public?
Well, up to the mic, please. Up there.
Yeah. That way those at home can hear you.
Okay. Well, thank you for making that presentation. That's awesome. For those of us that live in Colfax and drive around that area, at least we won't have to compete with trying to see traffic through the weeds anymore. That property is usually a mess. As far as a traffic increase, shouldn't be any, there's not that many do-it-yourselfers anymore. So if anything, it'll be a beautification to that corner. So, and on the plus side, competition's good. So being that Colfax is usually held hostage to pricing because we're up here and it's 15 miles to go to Auburn, this might make pricing in the auto parts business a little bit more competitive. That's a good thing. So you got my vote.
Any other comments from the public? Any comments from council members?
I have a question for you. So if I'm looking at, if you want to go back to the schematic with the different directions on the building. So obviously the front exterior, this is what's facing Highway 80.
Correct.
So your left exterior is facing the hotel and right is facing the grocery store.
Correct.
Are they flexible? Will they make the left side just as pretty as the right side is?
Oh, the second slide.
Yeah, because your bottom slide, you know, they at least got the windows in there and it's got the sign. So it gives it a little bit of personality versus what's currently showing to show the hotel as boring as can be. I know it's silly, but I didn't know if they'd be remotely willing to make it look not quite so ugly at the side of the building, because that's what you're gonna see coming up the freeway.
Amanda, we don't have anyone from O'Reilly on the phone, do we, that you're aware of? So O'Reilly is remote.
Okay.
Ashley White, yes, is representing O'Reilly. Yes.
Awesome. Here we go. It tried to unmute. I saw it. Yeah, it did, but then it went back on. We're trying to get to you, Ashley. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, so I'm Ashley White and I represent the architect firm for O'Reilly Auto Parts, and we also have James and Kyle who would like to be on if you have any of those questions, if you can give them a permission.
So Ashley, the question is, if you can see the slide, the second elevation, the question was asked if you would be willing to increase the architecture on that elevation.
I mean, that was the only thing is we can make the left match the right, so it's a little bit more visually welcoming.
Hi, this is James. I'm with Kinetic Design. We can definitely add windows on that left-hand elevation for you. That wouldn't be a problem.
Okay, can you put another one of your signs? Will that mean our sign if they put it on all 3 sides? I don't know what if our permitting, if that would be a problem.
They do have frontage on 2 sides, so that does increase their allowable sign.
Does it? Okay.
So I can work with them on that.
Okay. Yeah, I just think it would be much more visually appealing if the 2 sides matched, especially because that's the one you're going to see when they're driving up the freeway, which is why I was wondering if we can make the right and the left match. Or as close.
Yeah, we can agree to do that.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Any other questions? I had a question on the landscape plan. All these little circles, These represent ornamental trees, is that it?
So the larger circles are trees and then the smaller kind of shaded are shrubs
Okay.
and flowers.
Well, it looks like there's 100 of them. And I said it's mahogany and ash, and I'm just wondering, we get 100 days of 100-degree temperature. Are those ash trees going to make it? Or is this whole foliage plan going to make an ash of itself? Sorry, just had to say that.
So it's a good question. When you guys picked the trees and the shrubs, was our temperatures and our snow and stuff taken into consideration that they're going to be?
A note on the landscape plan does state that it was designed consistent with Colfax's zone. So there are notes and there are native plants that are proposed as well.
Are they going to be using a landscaping company to come in and maintain those? How often, trim them, clean them? Do we know any of that?
Yes. Yes, they will be maintained.
Are we like once a month, once every 6 months? I'm just curious.
I don't know their maintenance plan, but they do maintain them per, James.
Typically, there will be a landscape maintenance plan provided by the landscape architect for situations like this, given recommended, maintenance times.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, they had a plan in place if, whether they started to die or whatever, to take care of it and make sure it was going to stay as pretty as they're planning.
That is the intention.
Fantastic.
Questions from the council or comments? Hearing none, do I hear a motion from the council? Close. Public hearing is closed. Public may not make any more comments on this subject. Now, do I hear a motion from the council member whether to approve this?
I'll move approval on staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Now we need to do a roll call. Because the city attorney says so.
Councilmember Burris.
Yes.
We're going to do a roll call for vote.
Yes. Yeah, my vote was yes.
Councilmember Hilberg.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lumen.
Aye.
Councilmember McCauley.
Aye.
Mayor Douglas.
Aye. Motion carries. We now open public comment on the next item. Kathy, would you give us a presentation?
Yes, again, I'm Kathy Pease. I am here to present a design review permit for a prefabricated industrial building. It's located at 1225 Highway 174. Next slide. So this is a small building. It's 680 square feet. However, the project is 1.7 acres. It would be accessed not off of Highway 174, but via an easement off of Hill Drive. So as you can see, there's a small square in the upper part of the site. That would be the small prefabricated building. You see the access would be from the north and there'd be a new driveway and there would be parking proposed with this. Next slide. So it has a general plan designation of industrial and an I zoning district. The applicant is proposing wholesale online car sales, but no public would be at the site. So it would be a small use with this building. This type of use is allowed in the industrial zoning district and it would meet or exceed the setback requirements. So this is the proposal. This is a typical, I'm sure you're familiar with Quonset huts. Typically, this would not be allowed in the downtown area, but in this situation, it's located in an industrial area. There are similar buildings like this in the area. There are other Quonset huts. This site has some elevation. It's below grade. It would not be visible from Highway 174. and there's substantial landscaping that exists on the property, so it would not be visible to the public. So with that, staff is able to meet the design review findings. It would allow a beneficial use of the site. The project provides adequate site access, vehicle parking for the use, and it's consistent with the goals and policies of the general plan and the zoning district. Next slide. So like the last project, this does qualify for an exemption from the California Environmental Quality Act. It is a small project and it is located in an existing area of the city. There are no impacts to traffic or habitat. So with that, I recommend approval of this design review permit.
Now open this to public comment. Does the public have a comment? Harry, you got to get your 10,000 steps and walk up there.
Being a car guy, anyway. If I understand this right, it's gonna be wholesale cars, so in other words, he's not going after retail trade?
No.
So you won't see these cars? What are they gonna be parked on? Dirt, asphalt, rock, what?
There is no car storage on the site. It's completely an online business.
Okay. So you won't see the cars from the street either?
No.
How close to the Kwanzaa huts is this place?
From the existing,
The old Kwanzaa hut thing?
so it's quite a distance. It's over 2,500 feet to the nearest building.
Going towards Rollins Lake?
Yes.
So where the C train container is almost on the street is down that way?
Yes.
Okay. But isn't that county?
No, it's just barely on our side.
So the C train container is in the county or the city?
City.
It is in the city? Wow, okay. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Yeah, we got some weird cities.
Okay, no other public comment? Going once, going twice? Close the public comment. Now, my fellow, you only have 4 more months to put up with me. Now, my fellow councilmen, members.
Okay. So I just want to clarify where this is going. This is going to go down the 174 or off of 174 by like where JS West propane is.
Exactly.
Same area.
Past that on the backside to get, you don't get onto the site from 174, you come in from an easement from the back. So 174 is way up here, the
Right.
site is down here. You actually get to the site from the north, not
Not,
up.
okay, from the north. So
Yeah.
you're going to come down the road past where the old
Exactly.
veterinary hospital was
Exactly.
and then down the hill there. Okay. Thank you.
All right, I'm apparently full of questions today. So, I made the mistake of looking at this with my husband sitting next to me. Okay. So the question, the sample, one that you had given us, it's not quite the same that's in this. It's not quite the same building, but I know this is an example. And I
It's an
know
example,
this
right.
particular shape doesn't work for our snow rating usually. So I'm assuming the one that they're doing is a little bit shaped differently.
Yes.
And I only know this because my husband bought one of these buildings.
Okay. So we have told the applicant that they'll need building permits and will need to meet the building code for that.
I figured, he just pointed that out to me and I was like, well, I'm pretty sure they got that covered. So I guess here's my strange question. It's the square footage on the thing is a 640-foot building. They're putting in basically a shop for an office to play online, to post, that's what they're doing, is they're gonna be working the
Right.
business online because there's no cars there, there's no customers coming in
It's
and out.
basically an office.
It's an office built just with a prefab building.
Right,
Because there's
exactly.
nothing else going on in there.
Exactly.
But we get the tax revenue of them selling cars that we never see. Okay. I'm okay with that. I went trying to look for the company website just to look into them. I did not see it on any of our stuff. I tried to look up the name.
Yeah.
Do we know what, I was just trying to look up the
I
company.
apologize because they did give me that and that's how I got these examples.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I tried to look up the Toro name and I couldn't find anything. I just wanted to
Yes.
see. kind of
Is the applicant online?
It would be under Japan, right?
Right. I apologize because,
That's okay.
yeah, I can't tell you that offhand, but they're a Canadian company and I did go online to get the examples.
Okay, their address was Citrus Heights.
Oh, the applicant is from
Okay.
Citrus Heights, but
Okay.
the prefabricated building is a company out of
Right.
Canada.
It's a Canadian, it's the same people my husband got his from. Yeah, I was just looking for the website of the actual company that's
Yeah.
going into place just to see kind of what their website looks like, what their whole demeanor was. So, but we don't have one. Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
Any other comments from council members?
Yeah, I did one. I guess I understand now because our drawing that we have in this package is different than that. And I was just wondering, what does typical elevation mean? That is the same shape, but different color. What does that mean?
So, yeah, so the shape is what you're going to see. The colors and materials, they're not going to paint them. It will be a aluminum rust-free structure.
It's silver.
Yeah, it's silver.
Okay, and my other question, I think you answered it already, which is that the sales tax dollars come here, but the cars don't come here, or do they?
It's
So no delivery here, no car presence?
no public. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the council? I had a short question. This one, the previous one said they could be exempt from CEQA, and which is fine with me. But maybe you should explain to the audience why they're exempt from CEQA.
So CEQA is the California Environmental Quality Act. And so what that requires is anytime we have a project, the city has to do environmental review. So we look at the site, we look at how big the proposal is, whether it'll generate traffic or noise or air quality impacts. So we take all of that into consideration when we're looking at a project. This project and the O'Reillys can fall under something called an exemption, which means they're small enough that the state of California has provided kind of a streamlined process that if there are no impacts, if they're under 5 acres or the square footage is typically under 2,500 square feet, like in this instance, then we don't have to do environmental review unless there's extenuating circumstances. So in this instance, both these projects are exempt from having to do a larger environmental impact study. That makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do I hear? Yeah, right, okay. Do I hear a motion from?
I will motion that we take staff's recommendation and adopt the resolution.
Do I hear a second? I second. Do we need to do a roll call? And we need to do a roll call again because Trinity's at home.
Councilmember Burris,
Yes.
Councilmember Hilberg,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Loman,
Aye.
Councilmember McCauley,
Aye.
Mayor Douglas.
Aye. Motion carries. And now, since you're standing there, would you please give us another presentation?
It's a Kathy show tonight. Let's see. Okay, thank you. My eyesight. Okay, so this is interesting. This project is a proposal to adopt a new city ordinance to establish a short-term rental ordinance. So this would allow when folks want to rent out to like Airbnb, the ability for the city to set up standards in our zoning ordinance to allow that use. So we came before the council in May, and at that time we had a public hearing. The proposal was to adopt the ordinance. It's my understanding that with ordinance, we then have to come back to another meeting It's called a second reading to adopt it, and it's my understanding that the council had some questions regarding it. And so we have brought it back tonight to reopen the public hearing and entertain any more discussion on this. So I don't have a formal presentation tonight, but we do have the PowerPoint from when I was here previously if we need.
And now public hearing. We'd like to hear something from the public. Any comments? Concerns?
And then please do make sure to include your name and just your name, so for the records, thank you.
My name's Linda Hooper. I mainly have questions about the fee involved with this special, this short-term ordinance. So I'm not sure if that's the kind of input I need to present right now. Okay. My understanding, I wasn't at the meeting, but in communications I've had with Kathy and from other people who were at the meeting, I was informed that the initial permit fee would be $1,500, and that each year after that, every 12 months, it would be $500 to renew that permit. I feel like that's exorbitant in a town of this size, and I'm asking that the council reconsider those fees. Kathy had done some research that she shared with me for this kind of a fee in other areas of the county and the state. And this amount for Colfax is just very high. So that's the main thing that I would like to know about. There are other things in this ordinance that are, I think, very good. I think regulations, rules, standards, all of those things, I'm willing to comply with. Some of them go a little far, and I have questions, like on the Airbnb platform. A lot of the stuff is already required when, when you have a guest that rents your property through Airbnb, they have to, there are certain requirements that Airbnb demand, names, addresses, phone numbers, all that kind of stuff. So would that be sufficient for us to just refer the city to that kind of stuff? Or will we have to keep a whole separate register? And somewhere in here, it said for 18 months, we'll have to keep, have information kept for each guest for 18 months, their name, address, vehicle, license plate, amount of their rent, and that's confusing to me. So those are some of my concerns. All in all, I think that it's a great ordinance. I've been expecting it, and I've read through it a number of times and talked about it with some other people in town who are interested in Airbnb. And so that's all I think I have to bring up at this time, mostly the fees. If we could get those fees down, I'll jump through the other hoops.
Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong, though. This does not establish a fee. The fee
No.
is established by resolution of the council.
Exactly. So the council adopted a fee schedule, and the fee schedule that was adopted has a provision for administrative permits, and the short-term rental would be an administrative permit. So right now it establishes a fee of $500 to $1,500. Staff agrees that for this, that is very high. In fact, I was expecting to come back over the next month or two with a proposal to council to explore reducing that, maybe 500 for establishing it, and then, 85, something in that range for the renewal. So we are prepared to come back to council, but tonight you can definitely direct staff, and let me know what kind of fee you think is reasonable, and we can come back with a fee schedule amendment.
I have a quick question, because they also have to have the Colfax business license,
Correct.
really. And what is the yearly fee for the business license?
$10
per barrel plus $4.80.
Okie dokie. I think we can handle that.
Okay. Any other comments from the public?
Oh, and then on the question about keeping records, when I was looking to draft the ordinance, we looked at best practices of other jurisdictions. And so the keeping of records was the best practice from several other jurisdictions. So I am open to, if that is tracked by a platform like Airbnb, if that's something you could provide the city, then I think that would meet that requirement.
Okay, next.
Good evening, council members. My name is Jenny Nicolay, and a couple things. I'm really concerned about, first of all, their address, our guest's address, and their vehicle information, because this is not anything we have access to. And I don't know how we would go about getting that. Airbnb vets these people, and it's a kind of a check and balance with how it works on Airbnb, because we rate the guests and they rate us. So if anybody gets a bad rating, they're going to be nobody's going to rent to them. So I don't know how we would get the vehicle information. I think that's going above and beyond, because I've stayed at Airbnbs all over the country, and I've never been asked for that information. And I don't know if I would give it to the host. It's like, that's none of your business. So those are my two concerns. And I appreciate that the council's going to look at lowering the fees. I really do appreciate that, because we are a small town and we don't have as much business as we'd like. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, any other comments? Mary? Keep walking.
In plain English, what kind of business is going in here?
This is allowing our residents to offer their locations as an Airbnb. So it's not a business coming in. It's if you wanted to rent one of your rooms as an Airbnb, that's what this is for. So there's no current.
It's very confusing when you look at a picture of downtown. It's like, well, that's all vacant, and what are we going to do with that?
Yeah, we're getting there.
Okay, good. All right.
This ordinance is not limited to Airbnb, is it?
That's correct. Airbnb is a platform that owners can participate in, but it really is short-term rental. So, a resident could offer their room for rent and not go through Airbnb.
Any other comments from the public? Hearing none, we close public comment and ask council members their comments, discussion.
I've never used Airbnb's website, but so my assumption, and I'm sure you've looked into it a lot, is the information that we're asking for, Airbnb or any of those other platforms has all that information. So if for some reason our law enforcement needed to get to that, the owner should be able to go back to that platform and get that information from them in some way, shape, or form. So it's not that the owner themselves needs to get all that information directly from them. They just need to make sure they can go get a report in the instance that law enforcement or the city needed it for some reason.
That's correct. And I think the commenter is correct. I've stayed at Airbnbs. I have had one or two that asked for vehicle information, so they knew who was parking. So they did ask me for that, but I think they are correct that typically they don't ask for the license plate. So, you know, number of vehicles is not unusual for Airbnb to ask for, but the level of detail is in addition.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just want to add, this ordinance is broader than Airbnb.
Correct.
And it seems like, if I was an owner, I certainly want to know the address of the people that are renting from me. So if it isn't available from Airbnb, it seems like a reasonable thing to ask. It's just my opinion.
If you check into a hotel, often they ask for your license plate and your address.
So our ordinance can cover things that like that, right? Because again, we're broader, anything 30 days or less. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Kim, I do have a couple of concerns. So, could you remind me, Kathy, do we have a limit for the number of Airbnbs? Could you remind me what that number is? I'm sorry, for the number of short-term rentals.
Right, right. So when I looked into this, I am not recommending a limit on short-term rentals at this point. I think that we're far enough down the hill that we're not going to get the impact like they're seeing up in Tahoe. And I think in this instance, if the council has concerns in a year, we can always you can always direct staff to come back and we could look at limits, but limits are not proposed at this time.
Okay, I think that's reasonable. I think my other concern was, again, with the license and requesting the address. Do we require hotels in our jurisdiction to provide the same level of data? Because if we don't, then I don't feel comfortable including it here. And I do apologize, I was not present for the first reading of this ordinance.
No, that isn't something I think we're requiring of hotels at this point. Not in the zone,
So,
at least.
yeah, and I can appreciate you know, why we would want to collect this information, but while I can appreciate that to a certain degree, there also comes a point where I have to balance, you know, is this any of our business, and or to what degree is it our business? So, you know, I can understand there's definitely a benefit to us to have this information, but just, you know, the continuous government searching for every little crumb of people's personal data we can get, it just, you know, it doesn't always sit super well with me. So I do have some concerns, and, you know, I kind of go two ways with this. I do think that we need to address some of these things that, you know, folks, especially our Airbnb and short-term rental owners have we need to address these rather swiftly. We do need to get this ordinance in place rather swiftly so that we can exercise our TOT taxes appropriately. So I mean, I could either go the direction of supporting us completing the second reading tonight with the intention of immediately bringing this back for amendments, or I would say and bring it forward again for another first reading after some substantive changes.
I
So
think
that's kind of where I am.
Yeah, I think you can direct us to amend the ordinance language to delete the provision that you're uncomfortable with.
Yeah, this is not on for second reading
Yeah.
tonight. We just thought it would be better to reopen the public hearing, anticipating there are going to be some changes to the ordinance that would require another first reading anyway. So whatever changes the council wants to incorporate, let us know now, and we'll bring it as a first reading at the, you know, as soon as it's available.
So on that note, you know, I'm open to comments from other council members on this, but I would like to reflect our required information gathering a little bit closer, you know, if not identical to what we currently require of the hotels. I am highly supportive of us, you know, amending the resolution on the fee schedule and doing that swiftly so that this doesn't, you know, become something where we have some time overlap that creates a stigma. I know I had one other item, but I'm not feeling very well, so I apologize. I'll yield the floor for other comments.
So Trinity, if I understood you right, you would just like to see the address removed from it, and then you want the license plate information removed and keep the just vehicle make, model, and color, or remove all the vehicle information as well as the resident address?
Again, whatever we require of hotels, I think we should keep some uniformity. Usually for hotels, it is just make, model, color.
Right, and that's what I'm familiar with is make, model and color
Yeah.
for as well, so.
And you know, again, I do recognize the benefit of collecting this information, but at the same time, I'm just trying to reconcile, you know, how much are we disparate, you know, what kind of disparity are we creating by collecting this information from people in one sense and not collecting it on the other? I don't know.
Well, then my assumption is we can give direction then to remove the address and to double check on what we require from the hotels to maintain.
So I know we don't have that requirement of hotels in our zoning ordinance at all.
So not the cars.
No.
Okay.
I think the intent of best practices from the other cities is if there is damage, if something happens, there's a way for law enforcement to, you know, do an investigation, track those people down. So that I think is the purpose. If you're not comfortable with it, this would be direct staff to amend 17.123070 of the registry required. So we would amend that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd like to match whatever our requirements are for hotels at this time, but I specifically am interested in Sean's input on this one. Sean, do you have an opinion on this?
Can we just basically change it to say that as requested by the city, provide the information, the booking information for the person?
Yeah, whatever's available.
Collect all the
I
specific.
like that.
Is then that, depending on what platform you're using to book people and what their requirements are and for the different locations, everything changes. And then that hotels too in the same way, because if we need their booking information, we're gonna at least be able to get that information.
That's a good suggestion. I think that's workable.
I think that's fantastic. I support that.
All right, so that means you're gonna make the motion since you know how you want to phrase that.
Yeah. Yes.
So I would amend that section to be very short. Every permittee within the city of Colfax shall keep booking information for a period of 18 months and then delete the rest of the specific information.
And provide
Fabulous.
the rest of the city.
Yeah.
Yes, and provide it to the city upon request.
Short and simple to the point.
I love it. And I do apologize. There were other concerns that I had heard from the public that I wanted to address, but I just, for the life of me, can't remember. Don't see it in my notes at this moment, so I do apologize.
I would like to know just how much did we really explore limits? Did we just arbitrarily decide that we don't need them? The reason I ask that is there's not a lot of rentals in this town.
Right.
And that drives up the costs. And I think that if we don't have a limit, then there's no going back. I mean, if we have 20 and we decided later we needed 15 or something, I don't think that's doable. I don't think that's the right way to do business. Maybe I'm just wondering, do other communities have limits? Because once
they do,
you can't really.
So I did probably about a month of research before I brought this forward, and I looked at jurisdictions in California as well as across the nation and tried to grab as many ordinances. There are very few that limit the amount. And again, it's your Lake Tahoe's or your very popular tourist destinations. So staff recommendation is that I don't think you're going to see a huge run once we adopt this with a whole bunch of people coming in. We do have a limited number of residential units anyway in the city. So again, if you're not comfortable, you could put a provision that staff come back in a year and report out how many have come in the past year, and we can relook at it at that time.
You know, what if we did this as an alternative? What if we put a provisional limit of, you know, let's say 20, and once we hit the limit of 20, we come back to council automatically for reassessment?
So I did a search of the city and found 7 to 8 were advertising currently.
Okay. Yeah, so it would take us a while to hit 20, I think, and then by the time we hit 20, it's time to probably talk about this again. Does that seem pretty fair?
Okay, that.
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I just think we need to have something. Because I would hate.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to feel targeted. That's the thing. I don't want someone to apply and then be like, oh, I'm the reason you're going to now set a limit. So that's my only concern with not putting one in place now.
These are what we call substantive changes, material changes to the ordinance. So we'll have to bring back a new ordinance or a revised ordinance for first read and another public hearing.
Okay.
When we bring this back, can we have a amended fee schedule also?
Yes, because we'd be able to notice that as
Perfect.
an action.
Thank you.
And are we doing a study to come up with those fees, or are those sort of already figured out at this point?
No, I would like direction from the council on what you're comfortable with. If we come back, we are going to come back with a proposal for the amended fee.
I would,
A tenth of what we're at now.
An estimate of what we think staff time is going to be and base it off of that and staff involvement and just kind of give a general ballpark of what we think it's going to be and then a set the fee to that.
So we know how many Airbnbs there are, but we don't really know how many short-term rentals there are, right? Until people actually turn up and sign up.
Correct.
I mean,
Yeah, I looked at VRBO and Airbnb to come up with that 7 to 8 number.
It's kind of like
My comfort zone is somewhere around a tenth of what the current fee schedule is. But I do agree with Sean that we need to evaluate staff time and make sure that we're commensurate with that. So that would be at least my target if feasible. I would really hate to go above that unless we have a justified reason.
Okay, perhaps we're ready for a motion.
I was gonna say, we don't need a motion because we're just.
Okay, we're gonna
Right.
bring it back.
I think we have enough direction.
So Mr. Mayor, I am gonna go ahead and drop off. I am not feeling well enough to continue the meeting, but I did want to participate in this item, so thank you very much.
Okay, we've done very well.
Thank you.
Feeling well, thank you.
I feel better.
I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
You're not rid of me yet.
Okay. Fourth of 4 is mixed use ground floor, same picture as the third. So.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was not creative. So, and this one is more applicable to this item. So back in May, I came forward with a proposal for mixed use ground floor retail zoning amendment. What I had found over the last couple of months is we have quite a few vacant spaces downtown. It's zoned mixed use. The mixed use allows certain uses, but there is a footnote that says that unless it's retail, it's not allowed on the ground floor. So I was getting a bunch of calls from folks that wanted to locate social services office, veterinarian clinics, that type of thing. All of those uses would have to be either in a back room or upstairs. And so I was not able to tell them that that was an allowed use and to go forward. So my concern is that with a bunch of vacant parcels or storefronts, it would be better to get activated space on things that the council has already said are an allowable use in the mixed use. Because if you have a veterinary clinic that goes in, you're going to have a turnover of a lot of people coming and going. That hopefully they will say, oh, I'm down here. Why don't I go next door and get a coffee? That type of thing. And there are residual economic development by allowing those spaces. Again, the owners get revenue from renting out the spaces and the city gets taxes from activating those spaces. So that was the concern. So again, the same thing. This was coming back for second reading, and I understand there's some concerns. So we are reopening the public hearing.
Any comments from the public on this retail zoning?
Come on, Harry, you're 3 for 4. Are you gonna hit 4 for 4 tonight? Okay, well, it's public comment now, so. I love the participation, Harry. Thank you.
Okay. How apropos that picture, can you put that picture back of the storefronts? This guy? Thank you. Some of you know Ed Marson, some of you don't. But Ed Marson happened to be the son-in-law of my neighbor. That was my neighbor for 37 years since I moved here. And he was very much a sports guy. He was born and raised here, very active. And if you happen to look on the Facebook Colfax page, you'll find his wife posted this interview on the Colfax record. It was done in Thursday, September 16th, 1999. And at that time, Ed was the recreation director for Colfax for 14 years. And he was very much active in the community. His family was from here. I'm going to read some of the highlights of this thing.
Can I hold you for 1 second? This is the conversation we're having now is just for the zoning for downtown.
Yeah, this is about downtown.
The zoning for downtown and what businesses we can put downtown. Okay.
All right.
All right, if you're good.
Okay. We'll modify it. When you talked about, well, first of all, obviously that building has been here since 1938. Okay. There was a time when Colfax was very active. When I first moved here in 1987, there were 7 bars and 7 restaurants. They're all flourishing. As a matter of fact, downtown, they even had the Marval Market, which was the Sierra Market at the time only. They had little postcards that had this picture of downtown with an old train locomotive doing a wheelie. And it said Colfax, a little railroad town with a big drinking problem. That's how many bars were active in this town. My point is this: if we get back to putting businesses in storefronts that actually are like, if you go downtown, Old Town Auburn, and you see how they're flourishing, and I think one of the things Caroline likes to hear about, can we have a sign that says shop and dine downtown, not come see the vet, not go to the Caltrans building, not go to pick the shops, the secondhand shop, all that stuff. We have something that we just simply don't know how to market. That's the bottom line. And every time we do like this 3rd of July thing, all these people came in, look what happened with the big boy thing, thanks to you and the great video you did. If we just focused on marketing this town, we would get better people that would come in here from the Bay Area that would happen to go, you know what, this is a pretty nice little town. I wonder if we could open a business here. And that's how it happens. I mean, look at Lincoln. When I worked for Big O Tires, they opened a store in Lincoln. I thought they were out of their mind. Now look at it. So the right businesses will come. If you build it, they will come, kind of thing. And that's really where I wish we would put our effort is, let's look at how we market this thing. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't want to hear about modernization of Colfax. If we lose Winter Chevrolet, well, how's it go with the tax dollars that they create? We're gone. Gone. And so now I hear we're going to have a wholesale guy opening and selling tires or cars. Is Winter Chevrolet going to like that? I doubt it. So all I'm saying is, you know, the old timers, the closing comment on this thing, it said, Colfax is a very special and very lucky to have the facilities we have. It gives our community character. That's what we need to get back to. And I know, you know, desperate people do desperate things. They're looking for money. I get all that. But, you know, to your point, you know, once you go somewhere, it's really hard to go back. So that's all I have to say.
Any other public comment? Close public hearing now.
He was listening.
No, we're thinking wine tasting, like cute little shops downtown, an ice cream spot.
Working on ice cream spot, we got somebody very.
I'm not sure I understand the ordinance or whatever that's being proposed. Are we saying we do or we want to encourage people to rent these?
Yes, so there's a constraint to renting these spaces right now, the way the zoning code is written. So zoning codes have a table with all of the allowed uses. And so the council has established what is appropriate to locate downtown. This ordinance, as it exists, goes the next step and says, while those uses are allowed downtown, if you're X, Y, and Z, you can't locate on the first floor. You either have to be upstairs or in the back. And so we have a whole bunch of spaces that right now, when folks call me up and say, hey, I want to do this, I tell them, well, that's an allowed use, but you can't use that entire space. You can only be located in the back room or upstairs. You know, I can't allow you to be in that space from the way the zoning code is written. So what I have proposed, is that we amend that to be more flexible. If that's an allowed use, then they can locate within that building.
Okay, comments from the council. In my opinion, we're overreacting. I think there's hardly any rentals available. I don't think that we should change our entire set of rules at this time. I don't think we have enough information. And, you know, to Harry's point, and the one I made the last time we talked about this, is that we need retail in this town. Anything that's retail, and that includes food or whatever. And I'm concerned that if we rent these places to offices, there's no going back. And every time you do that, you lose one of those spaces. And that I believe we should have an exception process where somebody could come to the city and then, because we don't have a planning commission, come to the council and say, we'd really like to do this. And for example, if it's a vet, certainly that would bring people downtown. But if we open everything up, maybe there's nowhere for them to go. And I just think this is too broad a solution. I think all we need really is an exception process, because this could get out of control. We could fill every one of these spots downtown to the point where there can't be any more retail. And that's my concern. I think it's too broad a solution.
2 points on that. Can you advance the slides a couple? So this is not a unique problem to Colfax, the vacant floor. Keep going. Keep going. Oh, well, this might be helpful to see what types, one back, sorry. These are the type of uses that are allowed in this zoning district, but are not allowed in the retail spaces. So next slide. So I think this is really important. This is not unique to Colfax. Every single jurisdiction is struggling with this. Even a place like Roseville that has a ton of retail. There has been a seismic shift with online and COVID, and a shift in demand for folks for retail. They're looking more for entertainment spots. They don't typically go to brick and mortar to buy. They might go to look and then they'll go buy it online. So while consumer spending is increasing, it's not necessarily with retail. They're looking more for entertainment. So my concern is I haven't been here very long, but over the last couple of months, I've probably gotten 5 to 7 calls for folks that were interested in the vacant spaces, and I had to turn them away. So in my mind, it's how comfortable you are. If we continue like we are right now, I'm not sure those vacant spaces are going to rent out in the near term. So this was a solution. because you've already indicated that these are uses that are allowed in the zoning district. So again, I understand your concern. I don't think we're going to get a huge run on things that will suddenly fill it up if we change the zoning ordinance. But it is staff's recommendation at this point.
We just have very limited space. I mean, our downtown is pretty small.
When Kathy and I talked about this, we were just trying to add flexibility for the property owners.
I believe in flexibility, not total change.
So I have a question for you, Kathy. Is this something that we could consider limiting the square footage that they were allowed to use? So saying they could go into one of the smaller office spaces like what we have right here, but not into something like Scoops where it's such a bigger space that is more agreeable to an actual retail space? Could we put, I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but that was one of the thoughts. If you're thinking of an office, they don't need as much space.
Yeah.
But I would hate to, of course, fill up something that's a
Right.
larger retail
Right.
area and then leave our
Right.
retails in shoebox spaces.
I don't know how we would do that to pick and choose. You don't want to do spot zoning.
Well, I know that in here, let me see if I can find the right page. It's someplace there was an actual square footage exception. Because it was talking about any single use that occupies more than 5,000 square feet in the MU1 zone or more than 8,000 square feet in the MU2 zone. And that's why I started thinking about it. So
What page is that?
this is page 62 of the staff report. It's your exhibit A. But it was 62 in my big thing, so. It's right before the spreadsheet of all the different usage. So this is the second page, but this is the one right before it. So, and that's what made me think about it. Obviously, somewhere we're already putting a square footage. limit.
Oh, yeah, that talks about a conditional use permit is required.
Well, and that's
5,000 square
That's
feet.
why I wondered if it was something that we could do similar to limit it to the smaller office, the smaller spaces.
The other thought is we could make a footnote that those uses require an administrative permit to come in, and that way staff can review them
Okay.
as they come in. I don't know if that's an option.
Can we require council approval for the downtown strip for individual businesses so we can approve that particular business to go in that space, or is that going to be against
So
our?
that would bump it
our
up
purview?
probably to a conditional use permit, and that's costly. And that is a process.
Just another thing I'd point out is just in that one block, we have a couple of places at least that I can think of that are in violation of the ordinance we have. There's one of them right there. It used to be a retail business. Now it's there's intention, I believe, for that to be retail where Marston's used to be, but they're not, and they've been there quite a long time. And I think a little further over, we have a massage place. Maybe that qualifies as retail. I don't know. I don't think so. So I think we could enforce the rules that we have, but we're not. I'm not sure why that's the case.
Well, it's limited staff. I'm only here one day and you've got limited staff resources for things like this. I did want to note that a conditional use permit for a minor one is $2,000. So it is quite a burden on applicants to have to go through that process.
Did you keep track of the people that spoke to you about renting and have an idea what they want to do? Or are these just phone calls that?
Phone calls, people have come in at the counter. There is a business that's a social services that is coming in, but they're going to have a retail space out front. And the vet and office use. So no, I just realized I was starting to get a lot of calls, but I didn't keep track.
Tom's here, 10 floors, 2 stories, and that thing is empty. And these people need an office in Colfax, downtown. It should be a concern. Social services, that's a very broad, gross brush stroke, what it could be.
And I think that's one of my thoughts when I'm looking at the zoning code, because you're saying these are the ones that we now allow to be upstairs or in the, so basically we would allow this listing to now be right up in the front. And so, I mean, my gut instinct is some of these I absolutely could see as being beneficial and having a steady turnover flow. A veterinary clinic to me has a steady in and out customer base. So that doesn't faze me at all. I feel like business support services, personal services, and community and essential services is all a little vague. So I don't know exactly.
Business support service would be like copy places or that type of thing.
Okay,
You know,
but that's,
to me,
UPS
that's
store. Retail though, isn't it? I mean.
No,
and they're.
well, it's not.
It's a service.
It's a business support service. So it's.
So it is, but it's,
yeah.
the way it's designed is people are still coming in the door constantly. So it's not a retail.
Right.
But it is still a customer base walking in the door. So if that's the case, then business support services would make sense to me. The vet makes sense. What follows under personal services?
That's your massage and
Which I'm not a
spas.
big, I don't love that being downtown. What's essential services? What kind of things fall into that one?
That is a good question. I don't know. Nick knows.
I'm sorry. This is what I think we need to get really clear, to get very specific about what these entail. And if it's a business that has a turnover of customers coming in, or clients, I guess we'll say, instead of customers in this circumstance, it would still make sense to me to put them downtown. But if it's really, you're going to call me and we're going to talk on the phone and you're never going to come in the door, that's not beneficial to us. So can we edit this list down?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm open to the council direction. Absolutely. You have to be comfortable with it. I will say I work in many different jurisdictions all over Northern California, and I don't know of any other city that has this provision. So from an economic development perspective, to me, it just felt a little onerous. But you guys need to be comfortable with it.
Go ahead.
You could look at Nevada City.
Do they have this?
So my request then, because like I said, I'm focusing on this, would be that we get very specific about what community services, essential services, and then the office professional entails, so that we have very specific examples.
Professional is really easy. That's a business office. It could be an engineering service. It could be any type of office
Mostly phone
use.
calls. Okay. All right. And then
I will say in my experience, when I come into the city to work, I go out to lunch, I go run errands, I am spending dollars in Colfax. So especially my proximity, I'll walk down the street. And so that's, what I'm afraid of not capturing.
Right. So, and I think at that point, I'm wondering if we're looking at the pennies and missing the quarters, because then it is, it is an office. It might have 3 people in it. They are going to bring money in, absolutely, because they're going to be using what we have downtown.
Right.
But those 3 compared to a business like a vet center that sees 15 people a day is plus staff is a little.
I understand. Yeah. And I'm not an economist. I don't know what it would take to activate the retail space, and how realistic it is if we hold out, when those spaces are going to rent out. So
Yeah, I'm not advocating that we stop. I just advocate that we have a gateway.
Yeah.
And I think you're it. And if something sounds feasible, then it comes before the council, because we don't have a commission, but we shouldn't just allow it.
Okay.
Without, I think we need to control it in some way.
That sounds like conditional use permit to me. Yeah. 'Cause
absolutely.
I was thinking, can you do it on a case by case basis? Really, you can't. You can grant variances, but not as to your zone, your zones. Can't change those by variance. So that's out. You can do zoning text amendments. I've done many of those over the years, but that's a long involved process, involves public hearings. So it's really doesn't address what you're talking about. I think you're talking, closest I can figure, is conditional use permit.
Right. And that, yeah.
So really, does that mean it's this full list or none at all? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no,
I would be happy to cut this down and just keep libraries and museums, veterinary clinic, and business support services, and take the rest of them out would make.
I mean, that's
Would make me happy
absolutely.
because I see a steady flow of people coming into those three things. So I mean, my thought right now is if we could limit it to those three things that still have customers coming in the door.
Can you repeat that?
The libraries and museums, because I support that stuff anyways, veterinary clinic and the business support services. To me, those have the most clientele coming in throughout the day. So from my standpoint, I would be happy with those three and not the rest from the way I understand those other things right now.
You can certainly do that, but remember, there's a property owner out there that has an empty space that wants to rent it. And the more restrictive you are, the less flexibility they have to rent. That's the balance you're striking.
The value for Colfax. But does that have any value, really? Because that's what we're talking about. This is a section of town that's historic. It should have its own code for them.
It does. It does.
Then why aren't we enforcing?
We are.
Well, what I'm saying, you can enforce it if you market the right thing.
And I think you're,
6 or 7 phone calls from people, what are they? What kind of business do you want from here?
so, marketing is hard because we don't have monetary resources for marketing.
Out there. You can't
Oh. It takes more than a billboard to attract a retail space. You know, people.
Cars go up and down I-80. Why do you think Winter Chevrolet listened to me and put banners all over that thing? How's he doing on sales tax dollars? He had to really that way.
No, I know, but the public portion comment or the public.
I know all that stuff. Let's just put that aside and talk real. The bottom line is, this town has something to market if we do it the right way. The Chamber of Commerce, I talked to a real estate agent in this town that's been here longer than me. And I told her the other day, if she's putting up a for sale sign at my neighbor's house, that the Chamber of Commerce for Colfax is the area Chamber of Commerce. It goes from Meadow Vista up to what? Yeah, and she said it does. This is a real estate agent, been here for her life, and she didn't even know.
She's not a member of those.
Yeah.
My point, that's one person who does a lot of this in this town. And she doesn't know.
All right, well,
People don't.
So the question really is, what do you want to direct staff to do?
Yes.
Let me go back to the front page, hold on.
I think my statement would be nothing at this point. I don't believe in conditional use permits either. That's too much work. I don't want to control the landlords. But if I had a movie theater, would I open it up if there was nowhere to eat? No. You know, we need places where people can go inside, and we don't have enough of them. So I don't know how we get them to come.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Maybe if we build it, they will come. But we have a nice downtown and we're not attracting businesses here. But that's not a reason to change our entire zoning plan for downtown, in my humble opinion.
I looked up essential services. It's a basic public needs such as water, gas, electricity, things that are supplied to people's houses, or necessary social services, education, healthcare, et cetera.
Okay, thank you. Partially off topic, but not quite. And I know Kathy, once again, you're only here one day a week and you haven't been with us very long. We have one business downtown currently, to my knowledge, that doesn't fall into these. And if the person that I was told is renting was the Wandering Wardrobe goes through, that makes number 2. What do we do about those two? Because they're both massage offices. So I mean, this is just a
Yeah.
random question, because if that is the case,
So-
that's going there. There's two of them that don't fit into the current.
Right,
zoning.
and it depends if they're legal non-conforming, how long they've been there. I don't know the history of those. If they've been there a long time, it could be that they were established before the zoning code was amended with this provision. And so from that perspective, they're allowed to continue because they're legal non-conforming.
Okay, so one of them has been here for a while. I don't know how long, but if the other one is just brand new going in, so when that comes across your plate with her business.
Yeah, so typically how that works is everybody's supposed to get a business license. It comes in and they bring it to me and I look up the zoning and see if that's an allowed use of that address. If it's not, then I have to call and tell them that that's not an allowed use.
Because it was at this point 3 or 4 weeks ago that I talked to the landlord, and she said she had somebody ready to rent the space, but it was somebody who didn't.
You know what? That is on my desk for review.
Oh, okay, fantastic. The other one we may not be able to do anything with because.
Yes. And it may be in a back room because it is coming with a retail restaurant use in the front.
Oh, are they? Okay, that's good, because the last conversation I had with her was that she was gonna live in the resident portion of it, and then there was the
So we'll look
massage
into
portion.
that.
Okay.
I don't have the particulars,
Okay.
but yeah, it's in for review.
And Kathy, do we know if the massage place sells oils?
I know nothing about it. Yeah.
Because that would make them
Yeah.
retail, right? Or not? Depending on how much, just.
Yeah, I do not know that answer.
I'm gonna say, if we're gonna look at it, we might as well look at what's there and be consistent, which is one of the things I think Larry was mentioning, is that we make sure that we be.
And I didn't know why we should shut businesses down.
Didn't do that either, but I was more concerned because I knew there was one more that was looking at coming in and that was brand new, so that one we could definitely get addressed. So Larry's preference is that we do nothing. My preference is we revisit it with just 3 of those on there and then we'll go from there. I don't know if you have any opinion, Sean?
And,
I'm really torn on this one.
I.
yeah, this is, I assume there's no other city we can go to that they've done it, tried something like this.
I'm going to look in Nevada City, but I am not aware of any cities right now
Yeah,
that have this
we can't
provision.
imitate success in other words.
I will tell you across the board, economic development is a huge issue for all jurisdictions. I'm working with the city of Folsom and their central business district, overseeing a master plan because it's an established area of the city that always was successful, but it has big box retail and a large parking field. And so that effort is really to kind of figure out what is needed going forward, because like I said, this is not Colfax specific. This is, nationally, retail is just not what it used to be. And so everybody's struggling to activate their vacant spaces. And I just don't know how much is available for that.
Well, I tend to like Carolyn's idea that we come back and try something as limited as it might be.
Well, then I would make a motion that we revisit this with just having the libraries, museums, veterinary clinic, and the business support services, and then we can have a whole other conversation just with those 3 on there.
Is that a substantive change?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'd bring it back for introduction and first reading.
You guys just like seeing me.
Do I hear a second to that motion?
That's just staff direction.
Okay. No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kathy.
appreciate all your time, Kathy.
You're welcome.
So much.
Go to a coffee shop now and spend some money.
They're all closed. It's the evening.
Go get a massage.
And thank you for your patience because Colfax is going to be here a lot longer than any of us.
Okay.
We need to do this right. We shouldn't just be shooting from the hip and making quick change. So thank you.
Okay, we move to item 7, public comment. Anybody from the public wants to make a comment?
On anything, on any subject, this opens the door, any subject whatsoever you'd like to comment.
Great, good.
I forgot to earlier. I'm Amy with the Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center. One thing we did get asked about 20 times during the Big Boy event, and we also get asked this every week, is there is a water fountain in town. So, and I know there's some reasons to not have one because it could attract individuals that we don't want hanging around the water fountain, but no, they want like a water faucet. Oh, yes.
They don't like your answer. If I've got this great fridge with really cool bottle of water for
They
$1.
want something when we're not open too, because a lot of families are coming to the grassy area to watch the trains, just hang out, have their
Okay.
kids and stuff. But we get asked that a lot, but at least 20 times during the Big Boy event. So, and I forgot to mention that earlier. So thank you.
That's the end of public comment. We will move to council reports. Sean.
Not much for tonight, but we had a Pioneer Energy meeting last Thursday. We talked rates. PG&E, it sounds like it's going to be lowering their rates. So in order to keep up with Pioneer's mission of, excuse me, of making sure that our rates are lower than PG&E, Pioneer is going to be doing a rate adjustment so that they stay below PG&E's rates. So at least everybody's going to be getting a break. Doesn't sound like it's going to be a whole lot from PG&E, but Pioneer is going to beat that. So if you're not signed up for Pioneer, you should. Rates are really high, but Pioneer will make sure that they're better than PG&E. Here in Placer County. Tomorrow night is the Placer Sierra Fire Safe Council meeting, 6 p.m. here at Colfax City Hall. I've been working on getting sites together for putting in some AI controlled fire and smoke sensors. Our Fire Safe Council received a grant from FEMA and Homeland Security to put these in on a beta trial basis, and working with CAL FIRE and Placer Hills Fire to identify locations on private property, hopefully to put these out, and they'll be able to detect small traces of smoke and distinguish the type of smoke, tell us wind direction and things like that. And hopefully in areas where cameras can't see, we can put these and they'll give us a lot faster alert that there could be a fire in the area and get units to roll into that. So if you want to hear more about that, we'll be talking about it at the Fire Safe Council meeting tomorrow night. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Nothing to report. Carolyn.
Well, I'm busy, doesn't mean it always falls under this category. All right, so in the last 2 weeks, let's see, Ron and I did get to have a meeting with the organization that is the Move Your Caboose to get our Railroad Heritage Park started. So there's some good movement going in there, trying to decide who's going to be in charge of the money and who's actually, working with the plans. And we've got some quotes coming in as to what it's going to cost to move it and where to go look for grants to help pay for it. Because of course, moving that caboose is not going to be as easy as they had hoped. We also had, Ron and I both also attended a meeting with the chamber and the Placer County and Economic Development team, and talking to Placer County and what they can do to help our businesses and grow, and some fun things, different classes they can provide. So different support to all of our local businesses, and maybe some marketing campaigns for the community as well that we're working on. And then yesterday morning was a meeting with the individuals who are doing the planning on the skate park, just to clarify spaces and distance and availability. And so they are moving forward, and they will be bringing us 2 different design proposals for the skate park, in theory by the end of next month. So we should have those to be able to discuss and go over. And that is it on the official meeting side.
Okay, well, I'm the alternate on me, but really not the prime contact on anything, so I don't get to go to many meetings this year. But I did meet with our District 3 representative here, who was and he was meeting with people until 2:15, and so I took him over some cookies, not as good as yours, but we talked about ways that we could get a grant. I think they call it appropriations rather than grant. So I begged for some appropriations, and other than that, I think that's it.
I too talked to Ed from Kevin Kiley's office about appropriations. I said we'd like to look at the Fuchsia's camera system for tracking suspects. That will help Placer County Sheriff's quite a bit. The paving projects are in the final stage. You can see they're wrapping up. They're out doing the striping. They're adding AC dikes to help the water runoff to go in the right places down the storm drains and not into people's homes. I've been working with Cowie OS and Management Advisory Services, MAST. We continue to work on the RFP for the FEMA Home Hardening Defensible Space. They're getting very close. Once they're finished, the RFP will be advertised for about 6 weeks. So we're just chipping away at that to make sure we have all the correct FEMA language in it. So FEMA doesn't have a problem. I've also contacted the camera security company to get a quote for cameras to view the parking lot next to the public restrooms, since that seems to be a new area of problems. And last but not least, so I finally got to that. Last but not least, there will be a special closed session meeting this Friday evening to interview candidates for city attorney. So I'll see you all then. I'll need your checklist from the RFP and Trinity's as well. And I sent you all, on that note, I also sent everybody quite a list of questions. If you could send me back your top 10 or 12, so I can kind of melt them all down. So each candidate will get the same questions. That'd be pretty handy as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Now we need to item 10, good of the order. Sean, do you have anything good to say?
I sure do. Just wanted to say how good the Big Boy event was. It was amazing. I thought that everybody involved did a great job. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Chamber, for that. I think that's going to make our Railroad Days so much bigger too. I think so many more people found out about Railroad Days and everything that Colfax has to offer because of this one day, one time event. And I think it's pretty amazing what you guys are able to pull off. So great work. Thank you.
I would just make the same comments. The energy was amazing and people's patience was amazing. So thanks for all the hard work. I wish we could get it to come back every month.
Oh, no. Once a year, preferably in September, would be fantastic. And honestly, that's where I'm gonna stick with, both PCSO and the SARS, the search and rescue that volunteered their time for us, and even the police through Union Pacific. They were so crucial in making this happen and spent so much more time here than anybody expected. They planned to be here for their short, an hour, 2 hours and out the door. So they were phenomenal. I cannot give enough kudos to all of them for how many times they were asked by the public for updates and what's going on and the spreading of rumors via social media. I watched them be approached, everybody from the sheriff, like I said, the SARS crews, people wanted to know constant updates and they had nothing to give, but they were so patient with hearing these same questions over and over again. And, it was an event that I think took everybody by surprise by what we turned out. When we had all our meetings with Union Pacific, they said, well, 1,000 to 3,000 people. Well, we pretty much blew that out of the water. Absolutely. And it was so exciting to see, just like you said, the energy and the positivity that stayed through the whole delay. And our businesses downtown that are normally closed all opened up and they all had phenomenal days, which is fantastic for them. It's great to see it. But I spent my insomnia hours that night browsing social media just with hashtags to see what was said, not from our local pages, and everything was positive. Nobody had any complaints whatsoever to say. There was not there's not enough food, there wasn't enough bathrooms. Nobody said anything. Everything was very positive. So the chamber definitely rocked it in putting that in. So thank you.
And one of my favorite events was Colfax came up dressed in the 1865 garb and he gave a speech at the end of the caboose and asked everybody in Colfax to give all the gold they had so he could take it back east. And I told him the IRS is already doing that, so we can't. But I wanted to remind everybody that in a couple of weeks, August 5th, is a deadline if you want to run for city council. So we have 2 openings.
August 9th.
August 9th.
Okay, it's been pushed to the 9th, I guess. Anyhow, so tell your friends and be ashamed to come back here until you put your name in, you know, so. I try to shame people in the running. Any other good of the order for the city attorney or?
Oh, go ahead.
No, good.
Yeah, just to echo on Caroline's, big boy in our retail around here, and polling some of the retailers, best day in years. Some of them even said they did 3 days worth of sales in that one day.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Public comment on our comments. Any comments on our comments? Okay. Your motion to adjourn? Motion carries. 7:53. City council meeting is over.